This report is brought to you by Pantania's Sail and Power Insurance. We're in North Sails Loft once more, and Paul Westlake is with us. Paul's in from overseas. He's the international man, and he's been up at Port Stephens this long weekend with Marcus Blackmore. How'd you go?
Yeah, it was good. It was a great regatta at Port Stephens. I mean, when you get half a dozen TP52s together, racing's always fun. We ended up second. Pretty light air kind of event, very shifty. You know, congratulations to Zen and the Zen team. I mean, they sailed a very solid race, and it just shows that you know, the second-hand market for TP52s continues to be very strong
in Australia.
Yeah, in Australia, into Asia. But I mean, you know, the 52 racing, there's really nothing better.
Oh, that's good. Now, what about internationally? It's spring there, so.
Yeah, well, it seems like only a matter of a month ago people were complaining that there was still ice in the Northern Hemisphere, and then you just look at what's happened over the last kind of 3 weeks. You know, we've had, in Europe, we've had the first of the Melgus 32 circuit, you know, up and running with a good number of boats there. We've had our first World Championships with the Melgus 20. Good win there with 3DI. That's the first time that we had a complete 3DI inventory into the Melgus 20 fleet, and it was very, very pleasing for a lot of hard work by a bunch of guys to get that technology into such small boats. So, you know, we've got A-class cats going on at the moment, the Moss are full on. Like, it just seems like a lot of little boat development, and this high performance sailing is pushing really early in the season. We had the Super Series boats had a nice kind of testing session up in Valencia 3-4 weeks ago. All the teams were there, with the exception of Brnonisek, which I'm involved with. It's a new boat for Vladimir for St. Petersburg Yacht Club.
Whose design is that?
And it's a boat team. So it's come out of Longitude Cairo Yard. And yeah, new Boatine boat. Adolfo's put another one together, so it's nice to be back. It'd be great to be back with the Brnonisek team, and we launched that boat. I head to Valencia on Monday, and we put that boat in the water, and we get kind of 5 days to check all the systems work, get all the sails set up, and then we're off to Palma Bella. All the Super Series teams are doing Palma Bella this year, not as a circuit, but as a training event, and then we're off to Mahon for the first event. So, as I said, man, it seemed like all my peers in Europe were talking about skiing 4 weeks ago, and now we're faced with Palma Bella in 3 weeks' time.
Of course, it's also happening in the Caribbean too, isn't it?
Yeah, some BARTs going on right now. I just saw a report, you know, big wind, big waves again. You know, had the super yachts there. I mean, it's yeah, it's racing starting. Seems like it starts earlier and earlier every year. I don't know where the winter breaks are anymore.
They're trying to get away from the snow.
Yeah, exactly.
I noticed that Scallywag has got a new bowsprit and it's ready to go again.
Yeah, we've had some nice reports over the last 3 days from Scallywag. We put a bunch of new sails on the boat to follow up with what we did in the lead up to the Hobart. Obviously, David and the team were a little disappointed with having to pull out so early in the Hobart race, but hey, 100-footers, you know, one small issue, a little structural issue like that with the bowsprit. And you know, I read a little bit of stuff online saying, you know, why do you pull out because your bowsprit's broken? Well, the reality is when you're racing, what was it, 4 or 5 other 100-footers who've all got bowsprits, it's a long race. So yeah, awesome to see them continue to push, and over there in the Caribbean, and looks like they're getting a lot of water over the deck, and you know, I think they're going to be a team really to watch as we come the whole way back. They go around the world, do a bunch of racing, and come back for Hobart. I mean, you know, the likes of Wild Oats and Blackjack and Scallywag, those guys are working really hard already for this year's Hobart race.
And Comanche's gone up to America for the Transpac?
Yeah, that was just announced. Jim just announced that. So, I mean, the Transpac, it's you know, it looks like they're going to have close to a record year there. Having Comanche is always a huge draw card for our sport. I mean, you know, congratulations to Jim to, you know, making that decision and taking it up. You know, Wild Oats went up there a bunch of years ago. And I remember the next two events after that cycle, everyone was still talking about wild oats arriving, and I'm sure exactly the same thing will happen with Comanche there. It just gets a fantastic buzz in our inventory, in our industry, sorry. I mean, we all love these big boats charging around, and whether they're foiling or whether they're sitting in the water, it's awesome that everybody's just pushing really hard. 2019 looks like a fantastic year in our industry.
And all the boats in St Bart's, they'll all be moving north to Newport for the Transpac.
Yeah, well, you've got
Transatlantic, sorry.
Well, you've got I think the big push on the East Coast this year, from our perspective, is obviously the New York Yacht Club's 175th anniversary. And so that's a big event. You've got 12-metre worlds there. You've got IRC racing there. You've got the new boat Jest is going to be there. I mean, there's just, I think everything from an Opti to a super yacht is going to be in Newport at some point over that kind of anniversary period. And then seeing the 12 metres back in Newport, I mean, that brings a little bit of a tear to my eye, being there in 1983, and experiencing that whole, really the beginning. I think it was, we're in a different paradigm thanks to Alan Bond and John Bertrand and the success of the Australia 2 team. I mean, I don't think we'd be standing here doing what we're doing, honestly, if Australia hadn't won. And Brownie, who's standing on my left, as trimmer on Australia 2. He and I used to work closely together. And,
where are you, Brownie?
I mean, it's an awesome kind of change from that day. I think the world of professional sailing and just the attention to realising that technology makes a difference. I think Ben Lexon, showed that technology at the end of the day will win. And as you know, you've heard me say many times, the company I work for, I'm very proud to be associated with, North Sails, is absolutely driven by technology. And at the end of the day, technology does make a difference.
And there's the 30-odd 12 metres?
Yeah, I haven't seen the final entry list, but I mean,
it's huge.
I know they were originally planning for 20, and they're talking about into the 30s now, so fantastic.
That'll be huge. And then it's off to England for the Fastnet, which is going to be another record-breaking year.
Yeah, well, the Fastnet, that's always, I think a lot of sailors have a love-hate relationship with the Fastnet, as they do with the Hobart race, as they do with the Middle Sea race. But I mean, it's a big year for the Fastnet, and it's a big year for sailing, in Cowes, in the UK. You've got that fantastic Fast 40 fleet there. It's a credit to everybody involved. The owners, people like Peter Morton and Nicholas Enstrom, have really supported. They've built boats, they've made their tools available, they've made their technology available. Talk about trickle down. I mean, that Fast 40 class is a fantastic example of trickle down. I don't know how many of them are actually doing the Fastnet race, but there are going to be some Wallies in the Fastnet race. There are going to be some big boats in the Fastnet race too. And then I've seen some notes that are talking of upward of 25 IMOCA 60s going to be entered. So I mean, man, that's going to be good to watch. Mate,
well, that's the precursor to the Vendée, isn't it? Really getting them going. And
yeah. Well, obviously Geoff, we've talked over the last couple of years about the IMOCA and the way they had that whole fleet from the Figaro into the Class 40, into the IMOCA, and then off to the America's off to the now what's called the Ocean Race, what was called the Volvo Ocean Race. This is the beginning, because a few of the big dog teams are going to be in Fastnet, doing the Fastnet, because they just want to start looking at equipment. But then you just got the passionate, the passionate guys who just want to do the event, and they just love blasting around in these boats. It seems that IMOCA 60s just seem to never retire. Yeah. They just seem to change hands.
That's right. Yeah, they trickle down.
Yeah.
Then, of course, back into the Med for the Middle Sea race this year. And
the Middle Sea. It seems so far off. I think it's you're testing my memory, but I think it's somewhere towards October. I mean, it seems like so far off. But just the same as you walked into the loft here and had to drag me out of a customer meeting and presentation this morning, planning for this year's Hobart race, we've already got clients who are looking. There's a lot of work being done on this whole triple-headed offshore setup with the jib strut and how you deal with being able to get three jibs up at the same time, and how that affects the rig, how that affects the aero and the hydro forces on the boats. And they're two very high profile programs that we're actually doing some very dedicated CFD work for them, and they're saying their goal is to win the Middle Sea. As I said, I thought where everybody was still putting their skis away.
Indeed. Well, talking about those sorts of things, now you mentioned the America's Cup. We've got a lot of technology there, haven't we?
Wow, that's that's pushing the limit. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this interview have seen the latest kind of stuff that's been coming out of Artemis technology and what Ian Percy's putting together with Torben's success. And although Artemis aren't involved with the America's Cup, I mean, just being able to get an insight to the simulator and the power of the simulator, it's a little surprise to me why now, understanding a lot more about simulators, that Team New Zealand was so dominant in the last America's Cup, because they showed that if you can do the homework and do it virtually, once you put your product on the water. So basically, you've heard next to nothing from the four teams, the four established teams. Yes, there's some surrogates all sailing around between 20, 25, 30, 35. I think the American boat Terry Hutchison's was a McConaughey 38 hull.
That's right.
You're seeing that, but I mean, you scale that thing up to 75 feet. I mean, we've got some serious loads going on. We've got some serious excitement. I think some serious scare factor. But back in our world, with on the North Sails side, we're exclusive with 3 of the 4 teams, and between Ineos out of the UK with Gautier Sargent from North Sails France, he's our one of our top IMOCA type, foiling type guys. Then you got Burns Fallow, obviously, out of New Zealand with Team New Zealand, and then with Luna Rossa, Wangaray from Argentina. I mean, we've got 3 of our very, very high-powered guys working full-time for these teams and using all the design suite and everything. And I talk to these guys a lot. I know them as peers. We work together on various projects. You try and get to talk to them about the America's Cup and they just zip up. So all the power to them. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So what about the sail, the mainsail? What's the story there?
Yeah, well, as I said, they just zip up.
Come on, give me something.
No, we're building a bunch of sails at the moment. Membranes going through Minden. Using 3DI technology. I mean, that's what's happening, and basically what the teams are doing is that the whole hardware and the connection of the sail and the interaction between the 2 skins and how you deform them and everything. I mean, that's where all the modelling is. So on one side, our job is to build the structural membrane side of it and get that as light and as strong as possible, and then be able to deform it. But there's a huge amount of work that has to be done on kind of what we call the hardware side, the system side, to be able to, get the thing up in the air, get it down, to be able to tack it, jibe it, twist it, control it, and then, don't underestimate, there's still jibs in front of that and a code 0 type triangular sail for the lighter air. So, without stepping over any boundaries, there's a bunch of stuff going through Minden at the moment. We do all that exclusively. The teams work very nicely together. We pre-schedule their production slots. They're allowed to send people to supervise as we put it through. So, we've been involved with the America's Cup for a long, long time, and we know what the teams expect, and it's going to be fun. But honestly, I don't know a lot more than anybody else who's going to be really itching to click on YouTube or whatever or World on Water to see the first boat sailing.
That's
which
right.
seems to be could be around July or something. I think.
Fantastic.
So
that sounds great. Yeah. All right, now to the ocean race, and that's about it, I think.
Yeah, the ocean race. Obviously, there's a lot going on. The planning side, there's formal announcements going on there. I mean, there seems to be two two sides to it from everything that I know, which is, it's all in the public domain. They're looking to try and keep the 65s, or not looking to, they will keep the 65s in some sort of, in the one design configuration. And then you've got the, ever exciting, call it a turbo, IMOCA 60, call it what you like. But I mean, you think back, and it wasn't too long ago that we were watching, those the Vendée Globe boats, spearing through the Southern Ocean, just doing ridiculous stuff with Hugo Boss with a broken board, and and then the ultimate winner, which was on our side of the fence, which was fantastic. Not having a J1, and he never told anybody. I mean, what Amal managed to kind of achieve with a cat and mouse game. And you think of that with a crude boat of 5, how hard they're going to push these boats. I mean, it's going to put a huge premium on product reliability on our side. Obviously everybody wants to push weight. They want light sails, they want durable sails, they want overlap, they want the ability to be able to gear change, they want a jib that they want to use in 8 knots to also be able to blast reach in 35 knots. I mean, so this is all fun stuff for us. As I said at the beginning of this chat, technology is what we're all about. We're having a great time at the moment because we've got our composite engineers working with our CFD guys. CFD guys are coming up with all these fantastic flying shapes, and then the composite engineering guys are busy trying to work out how they'll put the structures together.
How to make them work,
Yeah. So it's, as I said, 2019, I'll make a statement now. 2019 is the year of technology. It really is, because there's so much going on. As I said, going back to, we're building Moss sails the whole way through to super yacht sails. The Cup is pushing everything to a new boundary, and everybody wants lighter, stronger, faster. So it's going to be fun.
All right, mate. Well, that's a good way to finish the chat. It's good to see you. You're still not giving me any of your frequent flyer points.
No, I think they're reserved for my wife and my daughters. There's something about when you go to ask for an upgrade and they say, sorry sir, you don't have enough points. Haven't worked out who I gave my password to. Must have been one of them. Thanks, Geoff.
Have a great trip.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. This report is brought to you by Pantania's Sail and Power Insurance.
No matter what sort of boat you have, whether it's a large power boat, a small yacht, a regular production vessel, give us a call at Pantania's and we'll do our best to satisfy your needs.